Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm John Ahr and I'm your instructor. I got an email from a member of the Paranormal Association asking if I would demonstrate how to make a talisman. So this is for you, and we're going to be making our talisman today with Reynolds Advanced Materials. Specifically, I'm going to be using silicone molding material along with castable liquid plastic. So today I'm going to make a talisman. Now, a talisman can basically be anything you want it to be. It's mostly a lucky charm, and it carries the symbols that are representative of the things or feelings or energies that you want to attract into your life. The one right here has an Egyptian motif that symbolizes luck, love, and long life. You can make it to improve your artwork or to attract the person you want into your life. Before we get started, I want to talk about safety. Now, you should always wear your safety glasses because you really don't want anything in your eyes. But we're going to be working with chemicals that can be harmful to your skin and to your respiratory system. So you want to work in an area with good ventilation, and you want to work in a neat, organized manner so that you keep yourself clean and free from any material on your skin. Okay, now let me show you the things that we're going to use. Now, what you may want to do is visit your local bead store or go online and do a little online shopping and find some little charms and other items that are going to be small and able to occupy the space that you're trying to fill for your talisman without bumping up against each other, and then have some symbolic meaning to you. So if you like, I don't know, dogs and cats and hope for more, maybe you might want to have a dog or a cat charm, or in this case I've got a tree of life, and I've got a heart for love, and a never-ending Celtic knot, which shows long life, long love. So for me, that's important. So pick out whatever works for you best. Now, what we're going to use to contain these items are these things. This is a, what are they calling it? A plastic cup. Well, what it really is it's a chair slide. So you would put the foot of your chair and maybe put a piece of felt on it so that you can move your furniture around in your house without damaging your floor. Now, what I've done is I've taken this outside and I scrubbed the edge of it on the concrete to file it down and give it a nice wide open rim. And I'm going to put my items inside of it, kind of like this. They'll just fit in there and occupy the space, and that whole space is going to become my talisman. Okay, now you're going to need something to secure these items, and I recommend using the brushable crazy glue. The one that squeezes out is fine, but it dries up really fast, and I really like this one. It will stay active for a long time. Now, other things that you're going to need are going to be you're going to need some sticks for stirring. You're going to need a paintbrush or two for applying color. But the main materials that you're going to need are, you're going to need a molding compound. Now this is a two-part silicone molding compound, and it's very easy to use. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, so 50-50, and you just pull it out, mix it with your hands, and squeeze it around your item, and it will dry and cure in about 17 minutes, making a very usable mold. Now, what you're going to need along with this is a universal mold release. Now, the universal mold release works with a variety of molding material, and it's excellent. Everything will pop out very easily if you use this product. Now, the items are going to be cast with a smooth cast 2-part resin. Now these products are 50-50 or 1-to-1 ratio, so it's very, very easy to work with this material. The trick for this is if you're going to add color, it has to be added to the part B before you mix the two together. Otherwise it just separates out in a real funny way. The other thing is that you have to measure accurately. If you don't measure, it might never set. You're just going to have a sticky mess. Now, it may take some time for it to totally harden, about 4 hours, but if you leave your project overnight, you won't have a problem. Okay, now what I'm going to use with that product are these items, and let me show them, open them up so you can see them in the close-up camera. These are glitters, and these can actually be applied to the surface of the mold before you pour in the resin to create a surface or a color on the exterior of the piece, and you can mix some of this into the resin in the part B to give an overall color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a brighter gold into the resin, and I'm going to brush a bronzy or a darker kind of gold color into the inside of the mold. That way it's going to give me a little bit more depth, because if you use just one color, it's kind of flat. Okay, let me cap these up. You want to be sure to tape these over, because if these spill, this glitter is so fine it would go everywhere, and nobody wants that. Okay, other items that you're going to need would be, you're going to have some plastic, glass, or metal containers in which to measure and mix and pour from. You don't want to use paper or any other type of material. This material absorbs moisture from the atmosphere, so you need something that's very non-porous, and you can get these at any grocery store or even a hardware store. So you're going to need some little mixing containers. Lastly, what you're going to need is some 4/0, that's 4 zeros, steel wool. This is a very, very fine steel wool, and what you use it for is after you get your casting out of the mold, you can brush the surface to sort of create highlights or knock off excess material and sort of give it a uniform look. And this can be purchased at any hardware store. Okay, so let me show you the first step. What you want to do is you want to take your plastic cup or your furniture slide, and you want to take your charms and apply them to that inside surface using your crazy glue. Now, I've gone ahead and I filed the backs of these pieces. Here, I'll just turn them over so you can see them. And you can see how I put a flat edge or a flat surface to all of them so that they would make better contact with this surface. And all you really need to do, be careful not to get this on your fingers, but just paint the edges, these flat edges, with the crazy glue. And like I said, I love this brushable crazy glue because it has a long life and it's really easy to apply. So once you've applied it, just carefully take the item and drop it into the cup. Now, you're going to have a little bit of time to like slide it around and put it exactly where you want it. So don't worry about it immediately sticking. It only sticks immediately to porous surfaces like your skin. So don't get it on your skin. Alright, so I've put my tree of life, and now I'm going to put my eternal, never-ending Celtic knot. So long life is right there. And then now I'm going to put my lucky charm for my wish for love. And hopefully that's a love that will last a lifetime. Alright, so we want to put this here. Now you could use tweezers if you want to. I'm just using my fingers, but I've done this before, so I know how to do it without getting it everywhere. Alright, so there you go. I've got my charms positioned in the proper places so that they can dry in place and be secure while I do the molding process. Well, like any good instructor, I've worked ahead. Here's another one that I did earlier. Now this one is luck and 4 wishes. So this one, as you can see, if I go like this, they don't fall out. They've already been secured. So I can go ahead and make a mold of this one. So let me set this one aside so it can dry. Now I'm going to be using a 2-part silicone molding material, and it's easy to keep track of. Both sides are different colors, and what you want to do is take an equal amount of the 2 materials. I'll cap these back up so that they don't dry. Be sure to put the lids on everything and make sure they're tight, because this material, it dries out very quickly. Once you have an equal portion of both the A and the B, all you have to do is squish them together. And it's okay to use your hands. It's not going to hurt you. You won't get any funky chemical burns or anything from this material. It's very safe. So what you want to do is squish the material until it becomes a medium color of the darkest color. So in this case I had sort of a brownish color, so I want it to go to a lighter brown. Alright, so if I don't see any more of the white material and it looks like I have a uniform color, then I'm ready to mold. Now, here's a trick that I like to do. Make a little ball with your hands, and once you have that little ball, what you can do is position it in the center of your piece and then just push down. Now, here's another secret. Because I'm using a clear piece of material, I'm able to actually peek through the back to make sure that I'm actually pushing the molding material around every nook and cranny so that I get a perfect mold of this item. So let me squish really carefully. Now, it doesn't dry too quickly. It takes about 17 minutes for this material to completely cure and dry. So take your time. Make sure that you've got everything positioned exactly right. So I see some air bubbles, so I'm going back and I'm going to push it around. Okay, and now what I also want to do is I want to push the material up to the edge of my piece, kind of like making a pie, I guess. Kind of making sure that there's a crust to the pie. And this also helps me to know how high to fill the mold when I'm ready to fill it with material. Okay, so let me turn this over and let you see. It's kind of a lumpy mess right now. I need this to be level so that when I pour the material into it, that it creates a level surface that's even across the whole piece, so that I don't have a talisman that's a little thin on one side. Now the way to do this is take a paper cup and cut down the paper cup until you have just a little bit of the cup left, just the bottom and part of the edge. And what you can do is take your piece, hopefully you have a cup size that will work for this, and then just push straight down to the bottom of the cup. Now what this will do is it will flatten the bottom of your mold, and it will contain the material so that it just doesn't kind of turn into a blobby mess that oozes out everywhere. Okay, so what I can do now is set this aside and let the mold material cure. Because the molds take a while to do, let me show you what I've prepared earlier. Now, I had this talisman set up with an Egyptian motif to it, and I made a silicone mold off of it. So now I'm going to use this mold to show you how you cast the resin. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is you want to apply some of the mold release to the piece. Now you don't need a lot, so just give it just a little bit of a blast, and that's probably good enough. Alright, now one of the things that I want to do is I want to apply some of the bronze or darker gold glitter to the surface of the mold. And you just need a paintbrush to do that. So I'm going to dip in here, and I'm just going to brush some in. Now, be sure to cover the whole surface. You can always remove some of it later if you need to using the 4/0 steel wool. And like I said, adding the glitter will give you a lot more depth to your piece. So just quickly brush a thin coat on. Oh, and another good thing that you might want to try to remember to do is go ahead and coat the edges up the sides of the walls of the mold. That way it'll have a uniform surface all the way around, and it will look like it's actually made out of metal instead of plastic. Okay. All right. There you go. So now there's a nice bronzy surface that's going to add a little more dimension to my piece. Okay, now these are just ramekins from a grocery store, and I previously marked them at the same spot in order to make an accurate 1-to-1 or 50-50 measurement. Now you can eyeball this, you could, if you have a postage scale, you could weigh it. Anything that you need to do in order to make sure that you get an even measurement, and experimentation is allowed for this. So just take your time and do what you need to do to get this to work. Okay, so I'm going to bring up some paper towels. I want to be able to dispose of my tools and things right away so that I don't create a mess. Alright, so I'm going to bring back the part A and part B of the molding material. Now remember, the part B is the one that you mix the color into. So I'm going to deal with that one first. So I'm going to bring out my cup for part B. And this material requires some stirring. So give it a stir, make sure it's mixed up well. Don't shake it though. You can if you have to, but if you shake it, you're going to work air bubbles into it, and you don't want air bubbles in this. So if you can get a stirring stick, give it a nice stir. Once you've completed that, go ahead and fill to your measurement line. Now be careful, take your time. Whoops, I got a little bit on my table, thank goodness for the paper towel. So I'll clean that up, dispose of my stick, and I'm going to clean the surface of the jar before I put the lid back on. Be sure you put the correct lid on the correct container. Alright, setting that aside, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the bright gold material, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to put a little bit of this, just a dusting of it, into the part B. You don't want to use too much, and you don't want to use too little. So a little experimentation will help you figure this out, and then mix it in thoroughly. Now you don't want to mix it into the part A, or you don't want to mix it into the two parts after you've made them or put them together, because it will never stay in solution properly. So I'm giving this a nice stirring, making sure that the color is evenly distributed through the material. Alright, so there it is, and I'll set that aside. Now I'm going to take my cup A. I'll take the cup, or the A material. I have a stir stick for it as well. This material is very thin. It'll spread very easily. Okay, after stirring it a little bit, I'll pour it into my measuring cup. I got a little too much. Pour some back. Okay, that's good. All right, now set that aside. And wipe my container. Closing it up tightly so I don't have any spills. Okay, so now, with the color already mixed in part B, I can add part A. And it pours right in very easily. Let's get rid of that little spill. Now be sure that you thoroughly mix the two. Don't add any air bubbles, just mix them up. Make sure that your colorant is evenly spread throughout, and then you're ready to pour. Now, when you pour the piece, you want to identify the deepest part of your mold, pour into that part, and then let it spread to other parts so you get a nice even coating. So I'm going to go where the scarab beetle is because that's the deepest part and fill there first and allow the material to slide into the other deep areas. Now I'm going to take it out to the rim, and I had just enough. Okay, now this material, because there's a catalyst in it, it's going to get very, very hot. So you want to be careful and put it into a very safe place where you can let it rest for a while. So I'll be back in a second, and I'm going to go set this on a shelf. It's been about 3 hours, and I'm ready to unmold. So we've got a piece in our frame. All I have to do to get it out of the mold is to just flex the mold, and it pops right out. So you can see, if I bring back the original, here is our plastic cup with the Egyptian charms glued in place, and here they are cast in our gold bronze mix of resin. Now this could be finished with the 4/0 steel wool. Now this would just give a uniform texture. You can use it to matte a surface or highlight a surface. It's up to you. Now to make this piece wearable, you could attach a bail item with E6000. This will make it possible for you to apply this to a leather thong or to a chain. For information on how to attach the bail with the E6000, check out our video on the Halloween necklace. I hope you have fun making this project. Check out our other videos and products on the onlinejewelryacademy.com, and why not subscribe to this channel? Thanks for watching. Come back again.